educated through the party manifesto and campaigns, which means the people are more engaged. The election system ensures that we have a legitimate system of manifesto election mandate, meaning that the winning party can rule effectively, and through the system the government are kept accountable, as the people can choose to vote against them in the next election. Also, there is continual scrutiny between the elections from the people. Although the first-past-the-post electoral system we use in the UK can be criticised, it does create a more stable government, and the extremist parties are kept out of forming the government.
Thank you very much indeed, Kate. Now we go to, I think, Henry Rigby.
My criticism against UK democracy is the fact that we use first-past-the-post voting system. It has the following implications on our country: disproportionality, systematic bias, and two-party system. Disproportionality means that the votes won is not proportional to the number of seats won. This is what happened in the 1951 general elections, when the Conservatives formed a majority government but on fewer votes than Labour. Systematic bias means that large parties have a much larger amount of power than small parties. They have what we call safe seats, and they're guaranteed to win the election in that constituency. It also means that the parties with concentrated support in areas are far more likely to win than those with evenly distributed support. For example, the Liberal Democrats in the 2010 election had 23% of votes, but only 8.8% of the seats. The two-party system means that UK politics is dominated usually by two parties, the Conservative and the Labour Party. This gives minimal chance to small parties and gives rise to wasted votes, tactical voting and safe seats, all of which undermine the idea of UK democracy.
Thank you very much indeed. Good. Okay, now what about Patrick Marriott?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Democracy is working well in the UK today, and has been a defining feature of British politics for hundreds of years, making the system an integral part of our national heritage. It's not just the way we vote, it's part of the country's history, and should be regarded with great respect, and not squandered. The history of our democracy also allows us to act as a role model for democratic countries. Whether they be newly democratic or not, many democracies try to emulate our system. This is why it should be protected, as it remains a very effective system of government.
Thank you very much indeed. Good. Okay, now we will have, I think, Harry Ashworth.
I would like to argue that the UK government is undemocratic because it is possible to have an elected dictatorship. For example, Blair and Thatcher had great landslide majorities and therefore were able to push through legislation at will. It also makes it easy for them to be re-elected due to the first-past-the-post system and the landslide majority they hold. For example, Tony Blair was undefeated for 7 years because of the power he held in Parliament. This makes the executive too powerful, and that power is not shared or democratic.
Thank you very much indeed, Harry. Now, what about Toby Sarachi?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to highlight that there is no other option apart from a democratic system. Look at some of the most powerful states in the world: America, Germany, Japan, and even the UK. What are the other options? Communism? There is no chance the UK becoming a communist state, as the Constitution demands a liberal capitalist system. To quote Winston Churchill, democracy is the worst form of government, apart from all the others that have been tried.
That's a very legendary Churchill quote, and I think that's terrific that you use that to wrap up your argument. Thank you. Okay, what about Max Langer? Max.
Now, I'd like to look at kind of an example of what is going on in politics at the moment. As we look forward to the election coming up in May, we have the Scottish National Party. In 2010, they only won 6 seats. However, at the moment, they are looking that they could win from 40 up to 56 seats in Scotland, when there are only 59 available. Now, this makes them kind of the kingmaker in this election. If Labour sides with them, then they will be forming a coalition, and this will mean that they will have a lot of power. However, they have in the past, only ever voted on Scottish matters. So do we want a party in power that is only working for one part of the United Kingdom? So I do not think that that is an effective democracy when we have not got representation over the entire United Kingdom.
Now, I'm very struck by the fact that you delivered your speech without a note. There's nothing wrong, by the way, with people delivering speeches with notes, including quite full notes. But if, when you're delivering a short speech over a period after practice and rehearsal and developing the techniques, you are able to do it like that, there is an advantage. And that is that if you become a regular public speaker, it's quite burdensome to have to write a speech every time. You know, if I had to write a speech every time I speak in public, I would literally do nothing else, because, you know, I often make 3 or 4 speeches in the course of a day. So following that approach, you know, is challenging, but it is worth cultivating, it's worth thinking about, and certainly worth developing mechanisms that enable you to depend upon fewer notes rather than on more notes. So well done, Max, that's really good. Okay, now let's hear from Charlie Crabb.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The UK is a representative democracy. This means members of Parliament in the Commons are elected to represent people in their constitution on their behalf. They are elected to fight for the legislation changes that the electorate want. The election process is legitimate as it is a secret ballot and one man, one vote, so people that are elected in are wanted by the electorate to support their wants in Parliament. MPs are professionals and know how to stand up for the needs of their constituents. They have experience in the fields they represent. Even in the House of Lords, which is not an elected house, it is made up of people with experience in certain areas which are appointed to make sure legislation isn't enforced that wouldn't work when implemented. They know the practicality and the effects that implementing legislation would have. People like Lord Sugar are there to scrutinise legislation about business. This is why democracy in the UK is still effective. Our system is efficient and practical as it realistically is, regardless of technology developments. The population don't want to be participating in the making of legislation through electronic communication.
Thank you very much indeed. Well, there's a cheerleader for our present arrangements. Ollie Thomas. Sorry, I do beg your pardon. It should have been the other way around. Tom Haynes and then Ollie Thomas. Tom Haynes, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Firstly, I would like to raise the point that many of the issues raised on the other side are either sort of personal beliefs or interpretations of characteristics of a so-called good democracy. That is why, Mr. Speaker, I believe that an indicator of an effective democracy can be shown through an opinion poll. And what bigger an opinion poll is a general election turnout. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, if we look at the turnout from the general elections from 1950, which was 84%, to that in 2005, which is 61%, it shows a dramatic decline. This means that there is still another 40% of people who believe the current system doesn't work, and the figures are far worse for other types of elections, such as local and EU elections. This figure is also likely to increase with the largely disenfranchised nature of the youngest members of the electorate coming through. And that means that there is still a lot of work that needs to be done to improve the style of democracy that we have in the 21st century.
Thank you very much indeed, Tom. Now last, Ollie Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I believe that an undervalued part of the UK democracy is the use of referendums, which can be used to introduce important constitutional changes, especially if the government is divided, and it uses widespread consent. And in response to Tom's about turnout, in the 2014 Scottish referendum, there was an 85% turnout, showing that it is useful and people do now believe that this sort of idea can be followed.
Thank you very much indeed.